Welcome back to another review by Mega Train Lover. Today we're having a look at a Heljan model, as you can see, or Heljan, depending on how you wish to pronounce it. And you've probably guessed from the title of this video already, but we are looking at a Class 86. And if we turn to the side of the box, as you can see the locomotive is not in there. I've taken it out, given it a running, etc. If we turn to the side, you can see its product code is 8650. If it focuses, come on, yep, there you go. So a BR Blue AL6, and its number is E3104, and it's got red buffer beams, and these are all the features it's got. So it's got working lights, sprung buffers, DCC ready, 21 pin, or all that. Now it says DCC ready. I've already fitted it with a DCC decoder. So this comes in the newer style Heljan packaging. Which has a detail pack over there, and this has got the ice cube, so it's similar to other manufacturers' packaging, but it's a very nice box. You know, can't fault it. I mean, yeah, it's a nice looking box. So before we have a look at the model, a quick history about the Class 86. This will be quite brief because there were 100 of these engines built between 1965 and 1968. I think it was 1968. No, they're actually built by 1966, funnily enough. So they completed 100 locos in 2 years, and they were built alternatively at Doncaster Works and by English Electric at the Vulcan Foundry. So the 100 locos were built to work on the then newly electrified West Coast Main Line. From London Euston towards Birmingham, Crewe, Liverpool, Manchester, etc. Later on, once it was fully electrified, they worked up to Glasgow and Preston as well. And they replaced the last of the steam engines on the West Coast Main Line. Originally they were known as AL6 under the pre-TOPS classification, but once TOPS was introduced, they became known as the Class 86s. These were mixed traffic locos, so they could work either passengers or freight, and they were suited to both. In their later lives, they began to work on the Great Eastern Main Line once that was electrified all the way to Norwich. And on the West Coast Main Line in the early 2000s, the Class 390 Pendolinos replaced them on passenger trains. And then later on, the Class 90s coming off the West Coast Main Line replaced them on the Great Eastern Main Line, which meant that the Class 86s were left to haul freight trains only. This gradually dwindled. The last operator for freight in the UK was Freightliner. Obviously, as the Greater Anglia Class 90s were replaced by the new Stadler units, they were replaced on the container trains, the freight trains worked by Freightliner. Many examples have been exported. Some of them have been exported to Hungary and Bulgaria, but there are still a few left in the UK. Probably the most well-known one that's preserved in the UK is Les Ross, which works rail tours on the West Coast Main Line. There's also another one owned by Locomotive Services Limited. So there's still quite a few preserved, and they're still going strong in Europe. But yeah, so you know, it's a very popular electric loco, and it is definitely my personal favourite electric loco as well. So what we're going to do after that brief, well, not so, I don't know how brief it was, but we're going to put the box to one side, and we're going to take a look at the model itself. Wow. Here it is. Wow. I mean, first thing I'm going to talk about is the weight. It is very heavy. So I'm very surprised if this will have any problems with traction. But wow. I got this particular model at the Great Electric Train Show last month for a bargain price. Normally these go for about 180, 190 quid. I got mine for 125, which I think is an excellent price for such a beautiful looking model, which is superbly well detailed. Let's start at one end. You've got very, very characteristic look of a Class 86. All this detail on the front, this was already pre-fitted by the manufacturer. There was some detail on the back here, but I've had to remove pretty much all of it in order to accommodate the tension lock coupling. The reason why I've just left the detail there because I don't intend to put a coupling there, but yeah, it just makes it look a lot nicer. But yeah, so you get sprung buffers on all four corners of the locomotive. You get working head and tail lights. So the head code light lights up when the locomotive is coming towards you, and when it's going in away from you, the tail lights work. Unfortunately, unlike unlike Bachmann models, there is no switch underneath or anywhere on the locomotive to control the tail lights. So, which means that even when it's pulling a train, the tail light, you cannot switch the tail lights off. So when it's pulling a train, you can basically see the tail lights reflecting off the rolling stock, which obviously isn't very realistic, because, you know, obviously when they're pulling rolling stock, they would have the tail lights off. But yeah, I mean, what can you do? But at least the tail lights work. That's all that matters. The livery on it is stunning. I mean, it's got quite a matte finish to it, which I'm not entirely sure how realistic that is, because whilst I do love the 86, I haven't seen too many photos of these in their early years wearing this livery. But I mean it still looks very, very nice. You got this beautiful kind of embossed British Rail logo there. I mean, it's not embossed on the model, it's just printed on, but I reckon in real life it was a kind of a stainless steel etched logo. Same with the number plates. They're printed on here, but obviously in real life they would have been etched. But they do look quite nice. They do look really, really nice. And the roof equipment is really nice. You get the wire along here. I'm not entirely sure what this is for. Probably something to do with the pantograph. And obviously you get this box on the top. I think that's for the transformer, probably. But you even get these little kind of I don't know what these are, handles up here as well. And the pantograph looks really nice, and it does go up, so there is a latch on the back which holds it down in place. But if you just push forward, there you go. The pantograph looks really, really nice, and it is sprung loaded, so when it's not caught on the latch, it does actually go up and down, as it would do in real life. And the actual the contact strip is movable as well. Obviously it would be like that in real life. If it's like that, it doesn't work, but it should be like that. But obviously it's very, very nice to have a working pantograph. It doesn't pick up current, so, which is pretty obvious. I'm not entirely sure if you can make a layout whereby you control your locomotive from an overhead wire. I mean, if you can, then obviously by all means go for it. I mean, it's very, very ambitious, but you know, it would be lovely if they made a model like how Hornby used to make the 86s, and some of the other electrics like the Class 90. They used to make them so they could work from an overhead catenary system, which was available back in the 1980s, but they discontinued them some years ago. But here's the other end. So the other end basically looks the same as the one which we looked at previously. The only difference, of course, this is where the pantograph is. The underframe detail is excellent. I mean, you get the axle boxes painted, and you get the kind of the wires on the bogies, and the suspension detail, the detail on the springs on the bogies themselves. If I do bring my phone, if the camera focuses, yeah, as you can see, the detail on the bogies looks really, really nice, and the underframe detail as well. I mean, look at that, especially on the other side. If I turn it round, you can see, look at that, just the way the that kind of mesh grille has been captured beneath the what those appear to be compressors, I believe. Maybe they're the compressors on the other side. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, those are definitely air tanks, but yeah, the underframe detail looks really, really nice. Obviously, there isn't an awful lot of detail to put on this model because, you know, it's not a steam engine in the sense that, you know, like it needs coupling rods and stuff. So the body shell, even on the real thing, is pretty basic, but basically the detail which needs to be there has been captured really, really well, and they've managed to capture the kind of basic look of an 86 really, really nicely. Honestly, it's such a nice model. However, it's not all about the looks. How does the model perform? Let's find out. So here we have the Heljan Class 86 on the track. What we're going to do is we're going to firstly put the pantograph up, like so. Turn its lights on. There we go. Give power and watch it go. And away it goes. Wow. I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to let it run because it just looks fantastic and it runs brilliantly. Let's get a few shots of her passing. So yeah, beautiful runner, faultless, absolutely faultless. I like how it's got a bit of a hum to it, so it's kind of, you know, it does sound very, 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 very minor, like the real thing, but yeah, it's a beautiful runner. In conclusion, I'm very, very pleased with this model. It's a model which is highly recommended by me, as it looks the part. Yeah, especially the livery is beautiful, the detail is very, very nice, and it runs brilliantly. Yeah, very, very pleased with this model. And yeah, so thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.